Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Halo Effect. I am, as usual, your host, Robert Lockhart. Hey, let's talk some baseball. Hey, Halo fans, guess what? We actually have something to report. Go figure, right? Well, the first thing basically is during the international signing, the Angels signed this young kid, Joshua Lugo. 16 right now, turns. Well, he'll turn 16. He turns 17 next year. That's the time frame for all signees on the international board. Uh, he was ranked number 37. Yeah, go figure. The Angels kind of aiming low on the ranks. It's kind of their MO these days, isn't it? But regardless, it seems everybody on that top 50 list that I saw, every single one of them pretty much averaged across the board for the most part, especially with their hitting tool. This kid's hitting tool is right about average. He's got some decent pop. He's got good gap power right now. They say when he grows, into his frame, because he stands about 6'2", that he will probably develop a lot more power. I would say when all is said and done, you can look for about 20 to 25 out of this kid. He's at shortstop right now. He'll start his career at shortstop, but as he fills out, they say he's most likely going to move over to third base. So, hey, there you go. We got our third baseman of the future. Thank God we've been looking for something like this for years. I mean, even before the Anthony Rendon debacle, we were in need of a future third baseman that we can develop into our own. We didn't have that for the longest time. Well, not since Sean Figgins, anyway. Even the whole Brandon Wood experiment, unfortunately, didn't pan out, which is a shame. I saw Brandon Wood when he was coming up through the minor leagues. He was really, really good. Unfortunately, reports came out he was kind of getting into his own head, and yeah, he just kind of mentally sabotaged himself. So, I mean, that's unfortunate because he could have been great if he had really kind of acclimated properly. But either way, with that said, so maybe we have our third baseman of the future. Maybe he sticks at shortstop. We don't know at this point in time, but. The other big news, Robert Stevenson, the reliever out of Tampa Bay, is now an Angel for the next 3 years. For those of you who know Stevenson, he can be good. Those of you who don't know, he actually came up with Cincinnati. He was supposed to be their ace of the future. Unfortunately, he never really could find his control very well. Eventually, he was moved to the bullpen. He jumped around with a couple of teams before he wound up with Tampa Bay, and leave it to Tampa Bay to be able to actually develop the guy. They figured out, just a slight change on his grip, apparently, a slight change in his mechanics, and this guy winds up being one of the best relievers in the game. Hey, there you go. Now, there are some who believe that, you should probably stay with Tampa Bay. That's the only way he's going to be good. Or Tampa Bay actually kind of fixed him, and from here on out, he's still going to be one of the top relievers in the game. But we've seen what happens when the Angels get the top relievers in the game. Somehow, some way, they just seriously fall downhill. Remember Aaron Loop? This was a guy coming out of New York that he was unhittable. He had a sub-1 ERA coming out of the bullpen. That's very good. And all of a sudden, his ERA raises above 6. Ouch! What the heck happened there? Man, I have absolutely no idea. But I will say this, he's gone. I'm glad. We had the same issue with Ryan Tepera. He was one of the better relievers in the game, and he faltered with the Angels. They had enough of him. They got rid of him mid-season. But with that said, Robert Stevenson does appear to be legit. I sincerely hope so, because we have him for 3 years, and the last thing I want is for that debacle to happen again. But at least we have something to look forward to. We have a little bit of hope. Everything else was like a reclamation project. Adam Sember hoping to return to form. Uh, what was it? Adam Kolarek hoping to return to form. Luis Garcia never really had a great form. And that's one, again, still don't understand it. Evan White hoping that he can be what they were projecting him to be in Seattle. Um, Zach Plezak, hoping a return to form. Everything has just been a return to hoping for a return to form. It's not exactly something you want to base your hopes on. It's that's sitting there praying to God that things go right, rather than, hey, we got something we can be hopeful for. But either way, that's the big news right now coming out of the Halo land. So, with that said, they still haven't replaced Otani's production. Not at the plate, not on the mound. I come to find out that one of the biggest reasons why there really hasn't been a whole lot of movement on these top pitchers has simply been that of the top 8 free agents right now, 6 of them are represented by Scott Boras. And for those of you who don't know who Scott Boras is, he's a leech. He's the devil whispering in Judas's ear when it comes to his players. He hypes them up huge. And then when all is said and done, they get this big contract and they falter. Every time. There's really only 2 thus far that really kind of come to mind about how they've really kind of fit the bill. They've really kind of lived up to their billing. One is Garrett Cole with the Yankees, and the other one is Bryce Harper with the Phillies. Both these guys are Scott Boras represented, and they've lived up to the hype. Rendon has not lived up to the hype. We all know what happened with Steven Strasburg. He never returned to the mound. He actually retired because he knew he couldn't pitch anymore. His arm just did not have it anymore. So he actually retired, which is shocking to me. Most Scott Boras clients just bleed the other team dry. But again, take a look at Rendon. He's constantly hurt all the time. He's not doing the Angels any favors by any stretch of the imagination. And we're $37 million in the books for him. Doesn't exactly help when it comes to signing, better free agents. But the Angels do have about 65 to 70 million to work with on per year, not total, but per year. So they can sign a couple of guys that are 25 mil to 30 mil per year and still kind of come in under the wire, kind of like they like to do. But again, you still have to get the right players. And when you got guys like Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, both who are represented by Scott Boras, again, when it comes to him, buyer beware. You got to be careful with these guys. You got Boras, who's hyping up Blake Snell. I think I've mentioned this already. He's hyping him up to be like Randy Johnson. No. He's not Randy Johnson. He doesn't throw 100 miles an hour. He doesn't have a wipeout slider. I mean, it's a good slider, don't get me wrong. But when you were able to hit Randy Johnson's slider, save the ball. Because chances are it ain't going to happen again. Randy Johnson is the last man to reach 300 win mark. Blake Snell rarely goes past the 5th. That's if he can make it to the 5th. He's not Randy Johnson. So, again, you got to be aware of that. Blake Snell is good in his own right. He's got good stuff. He just has to be able to conserve his pitches. He has to find the plate more. He's got to locate his pitches better. Aside from that, he's still really good. He's just not Randy Johnson. Do not call him like Randy Johnson. No. Bad Scott Boras. No. But anyway, the likelihood of the Angels getting Jordan Montgomery, not in the best favor. Chances are he most likely goes back to Texas. That's it's really where he shined last year. My guess is they'll eventually work out a deal, and Montgomery will be a Texas Ranger for the next 6 to 8 years. The Rangers are really looking very formidable. If they are actually able to add him to their roster and have him under contract for a while, they'll have for next season. They'll have Scherzer if Scherzer can be Scherzer. They'll have DeGrom. After about mid-season, coming off I think his third Tommy John surgery. That doesn't bode well for his career. Really, his career may very well be cut short. That's unfortunate because I like Jacob DeGrom. Then, they have Owen White, who's, an up-and-comer in their system, who looks ready for the big leagues. He looked really good in the minors last year. So, again, American League West, beware. Astros fans, beware, because the Texas Rangers are coming for you. They've already taken your spot at the top of the American League West last year. They may very well be doing it for a long time to come. And if the Angels can actually get their roster set properly, look out for them. Because, again, I like Ron Washington. I like what he's capable of. I like what he can do for a team. If you're a coach on the Angels staff right now and you caught Ron Washington's eye, I really got to give you a chance. Because he's not a stupid man. He's a very smart man. He's a good baseball man. He knows his stuff. So I really got to give that a shot. Angels fans, maybe we should be patient for this year, see what happens. If we wind up signing Blake Snell or something like that, I hope it works out because we really need to be able to replace that production. I hope that they're right about Evan White and they can get his bat going. I'm hoping that maybe even Joe Adell. I've said 100 times that I don't have any faith in Joe Adell. I thought he was a bad pick. I thought he was the wrong pick for the spot that we were in. It just wasn't right. I didn't like the pick. I thought it was poorly done, poorly scouted, poorly managed. It just wasn't right. But he does have talent. There's no doubt about it. He's very athletic. If he can find the bat to the ball far more often, if he can start recognizing a breaking ball, still his biggest problem, he can be good. There's no saying he can't. He just needs to find the bat to the ball more often. He needs to do better than a 213 batting average. A top 10 pick, and he's batting 213 for his career in the majors. Yikes. Reports are coming out that it seems like he maybe figured something out last year in the minors, and when he came up to the majors, he got derailed by an oblique injury. We'll see. There's still a huge difference between AAA and the majors. There is a big difference. You're still facing pitching that doesn't quite make the major leagues. So you can, maybe prey off of that. When you're in the majors, you are facing major league pitching. So none of this, he was doing this in AAA, he's destined for the majors. No. You have to be able to put the bat to the ball. He hasn't been doing it. So maybe he figured things out. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Johnny Washington, you got your work cut out for you on that one. That's for sure. Again, when it comes to the rest of the team, there is stuff to be excited about. There's something to be excited about for Logan O'Hoppe, our catcher of the future. He looks really good. If it hadn't been for torn labrum that he had last year, he probably would have been Rookie of the Year. He was doing that well. He was managing the pitching staff really well. He was blocking really well. His defense is, really good. His offense, as we all know, is very good, and there's no problem there. Mickey Moniak's finally starting to look like the number one overall pick. Well, a first-round pick. Maybe not the number 1 overall pick, but a first round pick for sure. He's looking like that first round pick that everyone thought he could be. Zach Neto, most likely will take the next step. He's already taken, another step forward slightly by the end of the season. His batting average was getting a little bit better after he came back from his injury. Nolan Shanaway, something to be excited about. I know his slugging percentage isn't very high, but when you're drafted and then like 3 weeks later you make your major league debut, that's saying something. You're not going to hit for power right away, especially when you're drafted like 3 weeks ago. He was hitting the ball. He was finding real estate out in the outfield. He had a few extra base hits to be excited about and all that. The power's going to come. He will start hitting the ball much harder. He's going to be finding the gap much more often. He's probably going to be finding over the wall a lot more often. So he's definitely something to be excited about. I would be. I'd love to see what Barry Enright can do with our staff. See if he can help Patrick Sandoval find what he had in 2022. If he could do the same thing for Suarez, I don't think he can or will. That would be awesome. Suarez, I would just consider him a long relief, spot starter type of person right now. I'd love to see if he can help Reed Detmers figure out what's wrong with him in the 4th inning. Same thing with Griffin Canning. He's got the same issue. See if he can have Chase Silseth take the next step forward. Maybe help Tyler Anderson find what he had with the Dodgers. There's no doubt Tyler Anderson found something with the Dodgers. He had an all-star season. It was really good. For them to offer him a 3-year deal right out of the gate for one good season after a few bad ones, that was a mistake. I would have signed him to another 1-year deal with with an option, and then if he performed to the best of his ability, then you pick up the option, you sign him long term, good at rock and roll. If he had a poor season like he did, you can just kind of cut ties, say good luck elsewhere. But again, that's me. This is just things I would have done. For the Angels, I still think the trade market is the best way to go. And the best one on the market, the best one on the market is actually Dylan Cease, but they don't have the collateral for that. There's no way they'd be able to trade for Dylan Cease. They don't have that kind of players to trade. Corbin Burns, I still think they can get if they work the right deal. They have to be willing to part with one of their starting pitchers in their rotation right now, but it's Corbin Burns. It would be worth it. He's shown that he can be solid for the last 4 or 5 years. He's been a solid number 1. Cy Young Award winner in the National League. He's always pitched to usually a sub-3 ERA. I think he had about a 3.4 something ERA this last year. It's still really good for a starter. So, there's nothing to sneeze at. I still think he's the best option. Unless they can work out some kind of a deal with someone else that that might be under the radar on the trade market that no one knows about. I don't really see this as a possibility, but hey, maybe call the Dodgers, see if, hey, you want to part ways with Walker Buehler? It's probably not likely, highly unlikely, because he's under team control for another 4 years. He's definitely a front of the rotation type, but they just signed the best player in the game in Shohei Ohtani. He may not be pitching this next season, but he will pitch again. And he's a front of the rotation guy. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is a front of the rotation guy. They didn't sign him to a 12-year, $325 million contract for him to be a 2 or 3 in a rotation. Yeah, sorry, I don't see that happening. They did trade for Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow, when healthy, is a great pitcher. An amazing pitcher. Number 1 for sure. The The young kid they called up last year, Bobby Miller, this kind of stuff he has, he's a number one head of the rotation type of kid. So, I mean, he's not ready for that role yet, but he will be eventually. The Dodgers are loaded right now. They have great pitching. They're still looking for another back-end starter on the free agent market when they have like 3 who are ready to go in the minors, if you can believe that. So, I've already said it. The Dodgers ain't screwing around no more. You know, they're saying, okay, enough screwing around. We're doing this. So they let out all the stops. They have the team they have now. They're going to be very formidable. I would not be surprised if they won a few World Series over the next 10 years. Would not be surprised. I'm not calling my shot by any stretch of the imagination because, hey, you know, things can happen. I'm just saying it's definitely a good possibility, if not a probability at this point in time. So, well, with that, I mean, hey, you never know. Call in on them. If you got something that the Dodgers might want, not Trout, no, then, you know, go for it. See if you can snag Buehler. You know, like I said, I like Bobby Miller, but he's not ready for, you know, head of rotation yet. I give him another season or 2. Then he'd be ready for, you know, ace quality. So, but Walker Buehler's already there. You know, there's no doubt about that. You know, ask him. You never know. Maybe they'd be willing to listen. That obviously you're going to have to give up quite a bit to get him. Luckily, you may not have to give up any pitching. The Dodgers are already loaded with it. You know, and you're loaded with up the middle guys. The Dodgers are looking for up the middle guys. You know, you got Denzer Guzman, you got Livon Soto, you got others. Those are really only the 2 that really kind of come to mind off the top of my head at this point. But, you know, if you take a look at the Angels roster, they're loaded with middle infielders. I mean, loaded with them. You know, if you have to, you know, give up on Luis Rengifo and, you know, go with Michael Stefanik at second base, I know he's not the best defender, but he's still a great hitter. You know, if you get Ron Washington with him, he will be a good defender. And all he's got to do is put the bat to the ball more often, which he probably will do, given the chances. So, you know, if you have to give up Rengifo, if you have to throw in Soto and Guzman, if you have to throw in a couple of outfielders, I suggest Jordan Adams. Possibly, what's his name? There's a young Latin outfielder that the Angels have in their system who they are kind of high on. It's not Nelson Rada. There's another one. It's just kind of not coming to me right now. But you know, I would say you probably got the pieces to trade with the Dodgers. You don't have to give up any pitching for them. They're already loaded with it as it is. So maybe give it a shot. Again, you never know unless you ask. Maybe they'd be willing to do so. You know, hammer out a few details, throw out a couple of players, pound down a couple of shots. Hey, maybe you get Walker Buehler. Doubt it. I highly doubt it. It's really more kind of dream thinking right now. But, I mean, ask around. You never know. But, like I said, at this point in time right now, the best one on the market for the Angels to get would be Corbin Burnes. Now, at least that's what is known. I mean, no one really knew that Chris Sale would get traded to Atlanta. But, hey, that happened. You never know. You could swing a deal. It's a possibility. You never know unless you ask. Always got to ask. I mean, hey, how many people keep asking about Mike Trout even though you flat out say, we're not trading Mike Trout? You know, they still call and ask. Again, you never know. Anyway, I figure I'll end it there. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a good one. I'll talk to you in a few days here. Hey, go Halos.